Hello, this is Carl. Welcome back to a Parent Faith video series. This is a companion to my book, the Apparent Faith, What Fatherhood Taught Me About the Father's Heart. This chapter is entitled The Tea Shop. It's one of the favorite chapters of the book, according to the people that have read it so far. I wanted to begin by reading a passage from that chapter. It says, and this is a quote by Bob Goff, "Every day God invites us on the same kind of adventure. It's not a trip where He leads us or sends us a rigid itinerary. He simply invites us. God asks, what is it that He made us to love? What is it that captures our attention, and what feeds that deep, indescribable need of our souls to experience the richness of the world He made? And then He leans over us and He whispers, let's go do that together." And that was the spirit in which I began my journey last summer to visit my son in Taiwan. I wanted it to be an adventure. I wanted it to be fun and to go and do adventurous things. So we planned to go down south and have some fun and celebrate. And we decided to rent some scooters and go to the Turoko Gorge National Park. So we were out testing them out and driving around, and Laura got on the scooter with my son, and then we headed off. We were going to go on this adventure. As I came up to a stop sign, I thought we were going, and JD knew that we were stopping, and I noticed that he was stopping, so all of a sudden I had to stop, and I guess I hit the wrong brake and went flying over the handlebars, skidded out across the pavement. I would have done something cool like roll, but I didn't have time. And so I skinned up, not bad, but skinned up my knees, my foot, both of my elbows. And so we had to stop and get some medical attention. And that was a little bit of an adventure in and of itself. And after this was over, I experienced some waves of emotion, like maybe I just ruined the whole adventure. Maybe why can't I admit that I'm just too old for that? And I had thoughts of it being more tragic or maybe more serious. So we did have a good adventure. We did have some time, and it's kind of slowed us down where we could enjoy the gorge a little more the next day. Instead of just motor scooting around, we got to go down into the gorge, so some good things happened. But eventually we kind of cut the south side of the island thing short and traveled back up north where we had been before. So it gave us a little more time, and we were out to eat with our host, Tanya, and Laura just casually asked her at the end of the night before we were getting ready to go back to the hotel, where can we get a teapot? And Tanya said, jump in, and off we went. And that's the way Tanya does things. We went to this little tea shop, and it's really kind of hard to explain, but it was full of stuff. It was packed full of stuff, and we just walked in. Of course, we're in consumer mode. I caught a glimpse of my son about that time, and I just thought to myself, man, I was glad he was with me, because when I was injured, he took care of me. He was my nursemaid. He communicated with the doctors and so on, and so I was really glad that he was with me. And so we walk into this tea shop where no one speaks English except us, and we kind of mentioned, and Tanya helped us tell them that we need a teapot. We want a teapot, and she started communicating with them in Mandarin, and they were pointing us to things, and we were kind of in that Walmart mode where, we was just going to get in, get out, get our thing, go home, go to sleep, and people were talking Mandarin all around us, and we didn't know exactly what was going on, but we found a couple of teapots, kind of zeroed in on our target, and they were negotiating prices and things like that. And of course, we were trying to participate, but we couldn't really. And all of a sudden, they motioned us to sit down. And in the center of these tea shops, in the center of most shops, they'll have this table, kind of a thick wood table, that is where they have tea. It's where this little ceremony goes on. It reminded me of the first time I went to Taiwan and Dr. Happy. It was similar because I said, Tanya, my back's hurting. Do you have a chiropractor or something like that? And she took me to see Dr. Happy, who is named after his dog, oddly enough. His dog's named Happy, so he was called Dr. Happy. But he did the same thing. He set me down after he had adjusted me and put the suction cups on my back and some things like that. And he set me down, and we had tea. It's kind of a ceremony. It's a whole thing they do. There's some kind of approval process where you say, that's good, and those kind of things. And so you kind of go through that. But this guy began to share his ethos, his practice with us as we were having tea. He stood up on a stump and balanced himself, and he was showing us how flexible he was. He did a thing with his hands, and I don't even know how to do it, but it was kind of like, here's the church, here's the steeple kind of thing that you do back in Sunday school. He did a namaste, except he did it like behind his back. And he was just demonstrating, his practice. And Tanya kind of told us it's like a yoga practice or something. But I'm like looking for things that are effective in my life right now, so I'm hoping for a DVD at the end of this presentation. But he's just kind of sensing something good's going on, so we were drawn in by all of it. They found out we were plant-based, so he said through Tanya, he told us we're about to have dinner, and so they served us some delicious tofu of all different makes and models. We had never seen anything like that. And I kind of thought to myself, this is usually what happens at Walmart, right? When I go in. Briefly, I thought about, well, what if we get food poisoning, we die, this is the way we're going to go down. But at least I was happy. At least it was good, and we were having a good time. So as we were finishing eating, or as we were eating, he began to macrame, kind of create a little rope that held the top of the teapot on, or if the teapot lid fell off, it would have this little rope on it. And he did that for all three of the teapots that we bought. And so occasionally during dinner, he would dart off and he'd come back, and this little guy, he would bring us sunflower seeds and peanuts or anything he thought we might like. He was trying to please us, and it was working. Eventually, he came back with a bottle of liquor. It was just a clear liquid, and his friend said, "That's a new bottle. That's special." He tried to tell, this is a special deal. We found out through Tanya it was not a liquor that they give to foreigners usually, so we kind of felt special again. And so JD was going to drive a scooter later, so he couldn't have any, and Laura's not really too much into that. But holy rice wine was strong. Man, it was strong. But we enjoyed that, and then after we're done, he just gives me the bottle and tells me to take it home. And I didn't know how I was going to get it home, but I was kind of touched by that. We're just going in to get a teapot, and all of a sudden, we're being blessed by all of this stuff. And so he showed us some business cards with characters on them. He started sharing some of his writing with us. It was just paper with characters on it. He would show it to us, and I kept asking Tanya, "What is it?" And she would say, "Well, it's hard to explain, but it's kind of." But she said, "I understand, but it's hard to explain to you." But he would show it to us, and then when we kind of paid attention to what he was doing, he started writing, and he just starts writing these characters. And again, I said, "Tanya, what's he writing?" She said, "Well, I can't explain it exactly, but I know what it is, but it's hard to explain." And we found out later it was a story about, you can drink, but don't drink too much. And then it was kind of about us a little bit in the middle of the stuff he wrote. And so I'm just kind of getting real deeply emotional kind of about that. The thing was that he cared about us. That this guy whom we didn't really know his name, we didn't know, we didn't speak his language, we weren't from there. He already had our money for the teapots, but he spent the time to spend time with us. He was present. He was a different religion, and yet neither one of us were interested in evangelizing each other. He was a different race. He had a different language, but we still were able to communicate back and forth. And I think it's more of just being present, just being interested in each other. It was just the purest expression of presence I think I've ever seen. The thing was, I don't think it was the first time for this guy. Later on, I sat down and wrote about 18 chapters about this tea shop and about the lessons I think I learned there. But that night, all I could do is just say, what just happened? What did we just experience in this crowded little tea shop in Zhongli, Taiwan? So many lessons that I learned, but the main one was presence. That just being where we are today, and experiencing what we're experiencing without having to go back to the past or rush off into the future. We were just there. One of the most meaningful experiences of my life. I'm glad I could share it with you.